Good afternoon. This video is for the Olive Pit Packers, and it is dedicated to Ruth. Hi, Ruthie. Anyway, I know not all of you, or possibly none of you, are interested so much in Sherlock Holmes, but I wanted to show you what we've created here, and perhaps you can do what we do on a almost everyday basis, is play make-believe. Now, I have to back up and say for six weeks, I've been wandering about this place pretty much on my own, and I'm getting a little bored. So I thought I would show you what we have created here in what is called Baker Street West. So the first place that we created is 221B Baker Street. And you can see 221B, probably not very clearly, but this is where Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson live, and they have been living here for getting on close to 7 years. Well, it's 6.5. They moved in here in November of 2013. And this was the first room we ever created. And just going little by little, a lot by a lot. This is their sitting room here, and they have all the iconic articles that Sherlock Holmes and Dr. John Watson had, which I won't go into detail. During a tour I do, but not in this case. Just want to give you an overview. Over here is Mr. Holmes's chemistry desk. Eventually we want to put wallpaper on the walls, and I have been saving broken glass, which represents all the explosions that Mr. Holmes had when he was doing experiments. This is a place where I entertain folks for tea parties without the knowledge of Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson. Generally, they leave the building before the bookstore downstairs opens, and they come back generally after the bookstore closes after 6:00 p.m. This is a delightful place to have tea, the authentic British tea, and we can seat up to 8 people here, and we have had countless tea parties. This is Dr. Watson's desk here, and with just a focus on Dr. Watson. He's very handsome, and he did very well with the ladies. His first wife is Mary Morstan, who you can see here, and he met her during the adventure of the Sign of Four. We have a Sherlock Holmes Society, and it is 65 members strong. And you see here Toby, the dog, and he is our mascot. There's a view out into Victorian Square. So over here is the table we set for tea, and Mrs. Hudson, that's me, can pull this table out to seat the 8 people, or it can be just as intimate as 2. People often ask me how many people does it take to have a tea party, and I tell them that it takes just 1, but so far I have not had just 1. There are at least 2. This is the breakfast table where Mrs. Hudson serves the gentlemen breakfast every morning, kippers, toast, and eggs. And if you happen to be here early in the morning, you could perhaps sit down and have a chat with them. Nobody has taken me up on that. However, there's Sherlock Holmes's seat, and over here is Dr. Watson's seat. And here we have Mr. Holmes's desk. Without going into detail, I have to say that there are countless items from the stories on his desk and mementos. For example, one story is called The Adventure of the Cardboard Box, and it's very gruesome. It has to do with a pair of severed ears. The deerstalker, the violin. And what do we have here? We have a bookcase. Baker Street West has a series of 9 secret passageways to make our project mysterious. This was the first one that we created. And I put up the candle holders and the candles reminiscent of Young Frankenstein. Put the candle back. So this bookcase, it revolves open. And on the other side is what is my and my husband, Wolfgang, our office. But it will soon, very soon, become Mr. Holmes's bedchamber, and our office will be placed in a different area of the store. Right now you're looking at Wolf's desk. Somewhat of a mess. Over here is my desk. And this is where all the production of the events at Baker Street West begin. Looking back into Baker Street West, we will close the bookcase and take a trip into the old bookman's room. We had to have just a memento of at least my previous vocation, which was being a bookseller. And this area is to evoke the feeling of used and, well, rare books, which are always used, most always. And you'll see more of the books in a moment. That window goes on the other side to Mrs. Hudson's tea shop. Here are the old books. Let's see if I can get, yeah. And this is the area where if I want to see what's going on in Victorian Square, I could stand here and look through the bookshelves and see. Now we are going into the hallway that is in front of 221B Baker Street. And I'm going to turn around so you see the door to the old bookman's room. And before we enter Victorian Square, I just want to tell you that we do have a WC, which is available for folks who come to all of our events. And I hope you know what a WC is, but just in case you don't, let me show you. The WC is a water closet, and we have authentic Victorian plumbing with a pull chain. We also have another secret passageway, and it goes into what we call a bolt hole, which is where Sherlock Holmes would dash into the bolt hole. He would put on some makeup, which is in here, and he would put on some props, or grab some props, put on a costume, and he would go out, a secret passageway, and solve the case. This goes into 221B Baker Street. And there is another secret passageway in here, and it goes into the fireplace. So I'm going to show you, it's tight quarters here, but it is a cabinet here. And if you roll the cabinet door, you see this goes into the fireplace. Okay, now leaving the WC, we are going to go back into Victorian Square. And I will give you a look at Mrs. Hudson's tea shop, which is the shop that we created after 221B. And this is a delight to Mrs. Hudson. She never had a tea shop in the stories. She is the landlady of 221B Baker Street and of all of 221 Baker Street. But we thought if she did have a tea shop, this is what it would look like. And we have Mrs. Hudson. Oh dear, I've got the light in the way. Mrs. Hudson, when she was middle age, Mrs. Hudson when she was a young maiden, and Mrs. Hudson as an honored elder. So we sell tea here at Mrs. Hudson's tea shop. We also do have larger tea parties, and if we have 9 people or more, up to 64, then we seat them in Victorian Square, which is what you're looking at here. Now, I have to say that when I proposed making 221B, my husband was not so enthusiastic about it. He finally relented. My first attempt at trying to gain space to make a Sherlock Holmes area, he said no. And I thought, okay, well, that's a good starting point. But I did tell him, if you make a tea shop, you could make a pub. And so we did. And it is called the Wolf and Bear Pub. Wolf is for guess who, and Bear is signifies my partner in crime's husband, Brad. My partner in crime is Beth, but she is known as Irene Adler, and she refers to her husband as Bear. So let me show you the Wolf and Bear Pub. It's ready for all kinds of events, and we've had a lot of fun times in the pub. Just to show you the threshold, we have Wolf encounters Bear. And then also we have a fabulous, which I'll show you in greater detail, British monastery door, which we built the doorway to fit. You'll see that again soon. Anyway, here is the inside of the pub, and more mementos of bears, of wolves, and anything British. Here is the bar, which we made atop a piece of a billiard table. You can see here. Looking out towards Mrs. Hudson's tea shop, you see a pair of harpoons, which were the subject of a story called The Adventure of Black Peter. Here's the back of the pub, and a lot of these antiques we got from a place in Anacortes, Washington that sold European antiques. And going behind the bar, this is a good way for me to hopefully show you the extent of the British monastery door, because I think it's one of my favorite pieces in this whole project. There it is. It's fabulous. Okay. Dr. Watson's Apothecary. It is the third place that we created. Going in through there, I'll take you there in a moment. This is the edge of Dr. Watson's Apothecary. Dr. Watson never had an apothecary, but just like Mrs. Hudson, we thought if he did, this is what it would look like. As we enter in, Wolf and I went to New Orleans once and went to the oldest pharmacy in the United States, and we got quite a few ideas from that museum, which is a fabulous place to see how an old pharmacy would be set up. This is also where I usually show other secret passageways. We have 5 secret passageways that enable our Baker Street Players, which is our theater company, to go, for example, into one shop and pop out in another shop. And the way it works is we have a series of 5 bookcases. One is in Adler's Emporium, 2 are here in Watson's Apothecary, and 2 are in Mrs. Hudson's tea shop. And how it works is you take out a peg and very gently pull. And here is the hallway behind the bookcase that goes into Adler's Emporium. And there's a twin over here, and the same happens with this one. So going across the square, we find Stewart Scientifics, which is all done in steampunk. We had 2 pieces that were part of the National Hotel here in Jackson. These 2 pieces above and to the sides of the door. And we asked our carpenter to echo that pattern on the rest of Stewart Scientifics. Stewart Scientifics is named after Noel Stewart, who was our first carpenter. And if you look up here, this is the little book alley. You see some fabulous pieces that look like the piece we got from the National Hotel. This is looking at the back of the monastery door into the Wolf and Bear pub. So going in here, Mr. Holmes loved science, he loved chemistry, he loved oddities. And so we have this room which celebrates his love for all things odd, scientific, strange. And then going into the next shop, we arrive at South Downs Apiary. Now, South Downs is the place in England where Mr. Holmes retired after his many, many years of solving cases and became a beekeeper. And so this room is dedicated to him as well, and to his love for bees and everything that relates to bees. The next shop is Wiggins Toy Shop. Wiggins was the lead Baker Street irregular, the little street urchins that would, on Mr. Holmes's behest, comb the streets of London to look for clues for his latest case. Wiggins, of course, never had a toy shop. He was way too poor. But if he did, we thought this is what it would look like. And so this is a tribute to Wiggins, who was quite an aid to Mr. Holmes. We even have a little nest that has a window to the outside up there. Wiggins is the first shop that you come to when you come up the stairs from the bookstore, Hine & Company bookstore. There's Wiggins. That's quite a young picture of him. Going out South Downs Apiary, we come to a shop called the Deerstalker. And the Deerstalker is everything relating to Sherlock Holmes. We created it to evoke feelings of the story, The Hound of the Baskervilles, which might be one of the most famous Sherlock Holmes stories in the world. The door is flanked by 2 hounds. And as you enter, perhaps you get the same feeling as we do here, that you're in the moor. Lots of green. Here are the books. This holds all the books for sale. And then I love this part where if you look at the piano, the cover, the backdrop of the piano, the wood makes it look like it's a hound. Quite astounding. And here you can look out into Victorian Square. This is where we have all our plays and our productions, events. For our plays, we have, we need to title it. We need to put a little sign up here. But this is Roger's Roost. This is where our sound and light technician is during the course of a play or a production. And I think the door is locked now. Otherwise, I'd open it and show you. So just more of the Deerstalker before we can go into Adler's Emporium. So here is Adler's Emporium. This is in honor of Irene Adler, who to Sherlock Holmes is known, and he refers to her as the woman from A Scandal in Bohemia. She is the only woman who bested Sherlock Holmes. And in that story, she not only did it once, but she did it twice. Irene Adler never had a dress shop, but if she did, as I say with the others, this is what we feel like it would look like. And here you can get most anything you need for Victorian attire. If not, Miss Adler is happy to order. Deerstalkers by the dozen. And we even have a dressing room. And quite nice. a chandelier in the dressing room. Leaving Adler's Emporium, you can see into Watson's Apothecary. And here's another secret passageway. It is a bookcase that rolls open. I had to lock it because kids that were coming up and knew about it were showing their friends, opening it up, rolling it out, closing it, rolling it out, closing it. I put a lock on it. So we're going to go into, I do want to show you, we have cat doors. We have 8 cat doors. This one is the apothecary, which goes into the apothecary. This is for Edgar, our cat Edgar, resident cat. And going back, I want to show you, here's the tunnel that goes into Adler's Emporium for Edgar. On the side of the deerstalker, there's his entryway into the deerstalker. Into Wiggins' toy shop. This is quite something. It's a Jack and the Cat. Or it's a cat in the box. Here is our ticket booth for our productions. When we made the front of the ticket of the Sacramento Bee. This was a couple years ago. Here's the sign for Wiggins' Toy Shop. So going, there's another bookcase, but it is not a secret passageway, so sorry. South Downs Apiary. Here is the cat door for Stewart Scientifics. And here is the cat door. We call it the public cat. So that's how he gets into the pub. We also have a hidden secret door for the cat that goes into the old bookman's room. And we have quite a hidden passageway as well that's in Mrs. Hudson's tea shop. So this leads to behind the scenes. And we have a great backdrop, which we use for photographs. Back here is where the actors will stay while they're waiting to go on stage. We're fixing it up right now. It's a work in progress. It's going to have a lot of the props hanging from here and there, but this is as far as we've gotten. Here's our flat that denotes 221B Baker Street when we use it for a play. And here is the door that goes into what will soon be our office when Mr. Holmes moves into our present office. This is just a bunch of junk. This goes upstairs to Wolf's estate sales on the 3rd floor. And then going back here, we see I'm staging luggage for our new project, which is an entryway that comes into Baker Street West, and be ready for a train ride. So this here is what is normally used as our catering station. It has not been used in several months, couple months. Here are bits of china that I use for different parties. We do anything, like I said before, from a 2-person tea to a 64-person tea. And we do what is called a gold tea, which is a very exclusive, highfalutin, out of this world gold tea. So we are now entering the wardrobe. This is where I have a couple of sewing machines here. We have a lot of fabric. We have, we have stacks and stacks of all kinds of clothing, all that you could imagine. Great coats. This is mostly men in this wardrobe here, as well as all my supplies. Hats, any kind of hat you can imagine. We've got it all. We've been nominated for awards here at Baker Street West. These are all for costuming. And we've been nominated for other awards as well, which will be in here. This is what we call the green room. This is where the actors get ready and get primed up before they go on stage. It's also a little bit of a storage room and a place to for Mrs. Hudson, that's me, to have her paints and such because she's doing painting and repairs while we've been closed. A little bit of catering as well back here. And next we go into the women's dressing room. So the women are lucky because they have quite a large space. Sometimes we have, when we do a Christmas carol, we have 20-some actors. So we've got 10 or 12 ladies in here, all sharing a space, changing clothes, getting ready to go on stage. Okay, and through here is our carpentry room. I've been spending a lot of time in here lately. I've been teaching myself how to do minor repairs, fixing things. I guess that's the same thing. And exploring a field that I never was interested in before, but now I just want to teach myself as much as I can. So this is our carpentry room. Now, we're going to travel back to Victorian Square, and we'll just show you a couple things, and then this video will end. Thank you for your patience. I don't expect you to watch it all. This is a prop for a door. Almost every play that we have needs a door, and this one has been used a lot. Okay, back into Victorian Square, and we head down the hallway almost to the door that goes in and out. This is a painting we have with Queen Victoria and Basil Rathbone as Sherlock Holmes. And down this hallway, we have along here, this is a little tribute to, if anybody watches Elementary, the Sherlock Holmes in New York, who has a grid like this with locks and in his brownstone, and he tries to see how fast he can open a lock. Here is one of our latest rooms. It's the Diogenes room, and it is evoking the space that is called the Diogenes Club in the stories. And this is where Mycroft Holmes, Sherlock Holmes' older and smarter, more intelligent brother, runs the British Empire. And it's very masculine, but unlike the Diogenes Club in the stories, this room is welcome to both gentlemen and gentlewomen. A little bit dark. This is a project we've made with our book covers that no longer were viable, and I've been saving them for years, knowing that I would use them for a certain project in the future, and this is one of them. So this is a place where our Holmes Hounds members, our Sherlock Holmes Society, and our VIPs can come before a production or afterwards and have a bit of sherry, smoke a pipe, port, wine, whatever, and just relax. Oh, this is something that I just added. Decoupage on the stairs. So we have our Walk of Fame as well. This wall here. Our first production in 2015 was Sherlock Holmes and the Case of the American Twins. The next year, we produced The Final Toast. The next year after that, 2017, we produced Baskerville, which is my favorite, my personal favorite play. It was outstanding. We had 5 actors that played 40 parts. It was pretty wicked for a costumer to be involved in that one. The next year we did Jack the Ripper, Monster of Whitechapel, which is a full-length comic mystery. And it was quite interesting. And so last year, a year ago almost, our production was called Sherlock Holmes and the First Baker Street Irregular. And that was superb, mainly because we were using, I think, 6 or 7 young kids, which were absolutely delightful. It was quite an experience. Most of them had been involved in our Christmas Carol plays, which this hallway shows. Our first one, A Christmas Carol, 2018. And then this past year, A Christmas Carol. And love using the kids. They're wonderful, wonderful to have here. So the last part is as you leave or you enter this particular area to get into Baker Street West, we are creating a mural, and it is a work in progress right now. So this is a scene from The Adventure of Silverblaze when Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson take a train to Dartmoor to work on the case. And it is an iconic image. It was in the Strand magazine in 1892, and it was drawn by Sidney Paget. And we have our own Mary Morstan, aka Lucy, who is creating this mural, and it's just fabulous in my opinion. So we're making this to look as you enter. This is our entryway for the Baker Street players to get behind the scenes, but this wall will have signs going to different parts of England, and we'll have the luggage here. Right now it's just staged to do the painting. So this is the exit, and we'll be sprucing up these walls here to make it seem like a train station. And with that, You have had one of the most extensive tours of Baker Street West, and I thank you for your patience and hope you enjoy it.